Hi, everybody. So this is going to be really fun. We are here to talk about the latest Ghibli Fest, Studio Ghibli film. This is actually technically, it's kind of weird that they picked this movie because it's not technically a Studio Ghibli film.
Right.
But we're talking about Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind, and my friend Stanford is here to talk about it with me.
Hi, Rachel. How are you doing?
Hi, and this is going to be fun because this movie is pretty special.
It is. It's a beautiful, wonderful movie. I'm really excited to talk about it.
Yeah, it's widely, considered to be one of the best animated films ever made. It's certainly in that discussion, and it's a movie that has so many layers. It's a challenge. I feel intimidated just sitting here ready to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of amazing that I like it because I am not a dystopian fan. In general, I do not like those stories because they feel very cynical to me and just leave me feeling depressed. And so I don't tend to like those kinds of stories. I don't like The Hunger Games, for instance, that everybody else loves. I've only seen one of the movies. I did not like the books. But typically those kind of stories are just, I don't know, they're just very cynical about human nature and things like that. And I just don't tend to like that kind of story.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't care for dystopian anything. But this felt different, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And why do you think it feels different?
Well, I think part of it was the artistry and how the story was told.
Mm-hmm.
The whole dystopian society that the characters are living in is told during the reason why they're in the current state is told during the opening credits, with a lot of those very beautiful paintings that show what happened just through imagery. And you don't necessarily, you're not spoon-fed the stuff, nor are you hit over your head with a club by it. I just thought they told it in such a nice way. It's because it's based on Miyazaki's graphic novel of the same title. I wondered if that helped it too.
Yeah, I think it could be it. So he wrote a manga graphic novel about this story, and it blows me away. Like, how does one human being have all of this stories in his and this world building and this, like, it's so amazing. I mean,
I was so amazed by that too. It's like, this guy is such a genius. I can't even believe comes up with this stuff.
And this is just one of the many worlds that he's created. Like,
amazing.
It's just incredible. I just unbelievable. And yeah, there's definitely a closeness. And I think that that there's also a sense of hope that the movie never loses, ever, in my opinion.
No, never. And I think that's another big part of it too.
Yeah.
I think, I'm with you.
Yeah. And so I think that you create a character that feels emotionally true, and that there are a story and a character, and they happen to be in this dystopian environment, but it's not some kind of warning to the viewers that this is the horrible things of human nature. If anything, this is a showing how wonderful human nature is, and how a redemption power in the human nature. So it's sort of the opposite of what most dystopians end up doing, at least for me. And I mean, I would say this movie is even more hopeful in tone and feel than Princess Mononoke.
Yes. No, I agree, because I kept thinking about Princess Mononoke throughout watching this too. And but it's still, there's something different about it. And I think you captured it as that more hopeful element.
Yeah, I mean, Princess Mononoke is definitely a little bit preachier as far as the environmental things, but it's more sort of, it's different. It's very compelling because it's so brutal and so different. There's no other animated film quite like it, I don't think. But this, I think, especially seeing, I wish I could see Princess Mononoke on a big screen, because this just left me with feeling so inspired.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't think of, I love the book, The Giver. The movie was underwhelming, but that's the only other dystopian I can think of that sort of left me feeling hopeful, and as far as after I read it, and feeling sort of positive, was The Giver.
Yeah. And this, how nature plays into this dystopian world, to me was so another really unique part of it, because even though a lot of the humans thought nature was the enemy, nature really was an ally.
Yeah.
And
it ends up saving them.
Yeah, and which is I think such an interesting component that you don't seem to get in these other dystopian things. To me, and again, there probably are some of your listeners would probably like, whatever, Stanford, but because I'm not that familiar with, because I don't like dystopian stuff. I steer clear of it.
Right. So basically you have this post-apocalyptic civilization, and you have this valley that has been created in amidst this forest that is highly toxic. It's a toxic jungle, and there's these giant insects that are that have kind of created this poisonous environment, and that are sort of
the ohms,
and they're seen as kind of the enemy of the humans, and they're really gnarly looking. And the first time I saw it, it did take me a second to kind of warm up to these bugs.
In fact, as you probably know, Rachel, there's one there's the on that Studio Ghibli poster right behind you.
Yeah.
There's the
Oh yeah.
For anybody who's watching, there's Nausicaa right there, and then one of the ohms, the baby ohm. That's what it looks like, or a baby ohm.
Yeah. And so, the lead character is Nausicaa, and she is the princess of this valley of this thing. And I think what's the greatest thing about Nausicaa is that she is so pure, and she wants to help people so bad. Like, her intentions are she's so unselfish. And it makes you really love her. And but she feels real. It's not like this is some kind of superhero type person. She has a very pure, noble heart.
Yes, she does. I know we'll probably be talking about this a lot. I love her character so much, because I think because of her commitment to her beliefs, because her beliefs are so pure, as you said. She's so committed to love and to understanding, and she's unwavering with it, but not in a offensive way. It's in a noble way. I'm so impressed with her character. Really tremendous.
Yeah, she's great. And so there's this whole prophecy that this sort of savior of the humans will appear in blue robes, and will descend from this golden field, and will come and help save the people, and to this pure land, and that they'll find the pure land. And so Nausicaa is going out into the toxic jungle with her mask and everything, and she's trying to she's looking for I forget what it's. She's basically harvesting stuff that they can use and different things like that.
She's harvesting stuff, and she's gathering quite a collection of plant life that she's kind of not telling people about, right? Because everybody thinks that all the plants are toxic, but she finds that if she grows them in a certain way, that they're not toxic.
Right. Yeah. Right? And so then there are this group called the Tolmekians.
Yeah.
That crash in the valley, and they're
the bad guys, right? Which you call the
they're kind of the bad guys.
Kind of the bad guys. Yeah.
They have this giant warrior, which is this toxic weapon, biohazard kind of weapon.
A freaky thing, which they can grow, right?
Yeah. And what are their motivations in your mind?
You
What
know,
are they trying to do?
I'm so glad you asked that because I wanted to explore that as well. I I felt that they were just operating out of fear
Yeah.
and that they were just almost purely reactive, just like this environment is so horrible, we're going to fight it. We're going to and so all they seemed like they were doing, they were just trying to kill all the ohms and they just wanted to waste them and that giant thing, the monster that they were,
Yeah.
trying to help grow just would I think just would wipe them out. But they didn't. It didn't seem like it was so much that they were trying to like dominate. Like they weren't trying to. I don't think take over Nausicaa and her people's kingdom. But I think they wanted. They were so scared by all this. It's the only thing they knew how to do was take
They
him
just
out, and they wanted the other people to join with them because they needed the help. Really, right?
well, and they just want to burn everything.
Right. Right. With it wasn't so much that I even felt like that they wanted to rebuild. They just wanted to destroy.
Yeah, they just want to like burn everything and then like I guess I don't know, just start over, I guess, or
Yeah.
like it's a little confusing. I'm not gonna lie.
No, I was confused by that too. And again, they weren't just like flat out villains, but clearly they were in the way, right? And they were causing a lot of problems for Nausicaa and
Yeah,
for her people. I thought that their two leaders were pretty
there's the
cool.
princess
Yeah.
Kushana, right?
Who has this bionic arm, which is so cool. It doesn't get revealed until later in the film. Are we talking about the same person, Rach?
Yeah.
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 And then her sidekick, whoever he is, is her advisor.
Yeah, what's that guy's name?
Someone. Yeah, I was trying.
Pajit?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And well, no, the
Oh no,
Pajit,
that's the town.
that's the town.
What's the guy's name?
Yeah, I couldn't find it.
Dalekian's name. Because Lord Yupa, he's Patrick Stewart in the dub. He's from Nausicaa. He's
Yeah,
from the valley.
and he's kind of
Osbel? Is it Osbel?
Osbel, if I'm
Osbel's the
not
little
mistaken, is
boy.
the boy who's Nausicaa's
Kushana.
friend.
Ku,
And
yeah.
I got was getting confused. Sorry about this, but I thought that Kushana also maybe was the Osbel's sister who got killed in the plane crash. Remember that plane crash that happens and
At the very beginning,
near the beginning, and
it's
Nausicaa.
Princess Lastel.
Oh, that's right.
Lastel, yeah.
She's the one who gets killed.
She dies.
Yeah.
And so she
Thank you.
she tries to get Nausicaa to destroy everything, to destroy the cargo, to destroy the great weapon, the giant warrior.
Yeah, the giant warrior.
Yeah, and is it let's see, Lastel? Let's see. I can't remember that guy's name anyway, but yeah, he's got some charisma. He's definitely sort of a classic villain type.
Yes, with classic villain design,
Yeah. Might as well have the mustache.
Yeah, and in a way, that design kind of reminds me of Lupin the Third. Just that kind of look.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
Yeah, of an anime type of character.
Yeah. So yeah, their plan is that they want to like burn the toxic jungle and then I guess like start over again. But like Nausicaa doesn't want to do that because she's developed this other jungle. She believes that purity can exist. Plus they have the valley itself and it will ruin the valley if they destroy that'll make the bugs and stuff come to the valley if they burn the jungle. And so she's trying to protect her people. And it's I don't know. It's so funny because we're talking about all this, but it almost doesn't really matter. All this kind of mechanisms because you're just kind of what matters in this is Nausicaa. She's the one that matters, and you're just kind of following her as she has one thing happen to her after another after another.
It's so true. That's what I was thinking too. Some of the plot twists I was wondering about it. And then I thought, it doesn't matter. It's really, it's all about her. It's all about her and her
Yeah.
journey.
So she goes through a lot of different kind of, I don't know, a lot of different kind of changes and different things where she will she'll go from like being knocked out to being really strong to being like, it's really quite this journey for her.
It is, isn't it? She gets injured. I mean, there's a lot going on. But again, her courage and her bravery are so well executed, I think, by the filmmakers, because again, it never feels like, how sometimes not necessarily even in an animated film, but like how many times can a hero get knocked down? Just like, how can anybody physically even deal with that? I never felt that way with her. I mean, she has some hard things, but it's still it kind of fits within this world, of how she's able to keep climbing. Again, it's her amazing commitment and her bravery.
Yeah. Do you think that she's meant to be sort of a Christ symbol type character?
Absolutely. Near that final scene, which I don't want to, we'll talk about. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but anytime I think there's a character with their arms stretched out, and there's that big scene, where she's coming in on the glider with her arms stretched out, I often think it's a symbol of Christ or of a savior.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I love the world. Well, the world building is great in this, but the machine building, of course, Miyazaki is amazing when it comes to planes, and that's one of his passions, one of his loves.
Planes, I just loved every design. They were so cool. Yeah. Every single one of them, huh?
Yeah, it was really, really cool. I mean, when certain planes get blown up, you're almost like, oh no, because that was so cool.
It's so cool. Every single plane. I know. I'm with you. I that was something that just stood out to me a lot as well. And I've noticed that in, of course, in his other films, but this one in particular, the designs were so wonderful. Because again, this post-apocalyptic world, it's very relatable, but still there's a real element of fantasy in a way to it too, or a fancifulness, just because it's not in our world. It's not something that you probably would ever see in our world. Oh, but they're so wonderful. I'm with you. I just couldn't get enough of those planes.
Yeah.
And Nausicaa has that cool glider.
I love that glider.
I do too.
So good.
What is that? Doesn't it have like a little jet thing in it too that helps it get off the ground?
It has to, because there's certain times when it's like there's not. It have to.
Yeah, it's got some kind of propulsion system, but then also she glides along the wind, and it's just, and all of those shots are so beautifully done too. Sky. Oh, I loved it.
Yeah. And I think it's a very tense scene when she's on the bigger planes, and it's like one gets taken out and then like the next one.
Oh my gosh.
And then you're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
So they managed to create a lot of good tension.
Good tension. In some ways, Rachel, and what did you think too about this? It felt like a war movie in some ways, which
that's a good thing. That's a good comparison.
Which I thought was interesting because, again, it's really an anti-war film, but some of those scenes really felt like you were watching, a World War II movie, made in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what makes Nausicaa, one of the many things that makes her so special is that, like, she seems to be the only one that not only can calm the Om, but that like tries to calm the Om.
Nobody else even attempts to do it.
Yeah, I mean, after all she's been through, like the way that she's just is so, there's just like a peace about her, and that's probably continuing sort of that Christ sort of metaphors is that the way that she's able to do that again and again through the whole story.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah. And so there is a point where she ends up in falling and then ends up in quicksand. And that's a pretty great sequence.
That's a cool sequence, isn't it? I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's with Osbel, the boy, right?
She's with Osbel, yeah. And she goes through the quicksand, and you think what's happened to her, and you see she's on the ground. She's woken up, and her mask has been taken off. And so you're like, oh my gosh, and it turns out she's fine, and the insects have created, or the nature has created, a free and clean area for them to live, I guess you'd say, underneath the toxic jungle.
Yeah. And wasn't that a amazing setting in there too?
Yeah.
I loved it. Again, just the way it was, the color design of it and how it was lit. It was almost like, I love it when trees are used as, it almost looked like flying buttresses in a Gothic cathedral. You know, the way how they were so tall, but they also formed a bit of a ceiling. It was gorgeous. It was a wonderful segment.
Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting because it's humans that have caused this toxic jungle and caused that to occur. But it's also them who are going to sort of redeem the jungle also, you know, that they're the ones that are, so it's sort of an interesting, almost a circle of life kind of a feel to it a little bit.
Yeah, agreed. Mm-hmm.
And so it's, you know, it's an interesting thing. And, you know, she does have interactions with people like Osbel and the villain that we can't seem to think of.
Yeah, with the cool bionic arm.
Yeah, right. And then there's the princess, and then her father at a certain point is brought up, and then you have, and he's killed, I believe.
Yeah, his father. Yeah. Her father gets killed. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then also Lord Yupa, who is the sword maker of the town. I think there's that scene where he has like those ceramic swords, and he's like, oh.
I love that scene because that was just like straight out of a you know, karate movie or something. I mean, just the way that was done, that was so cool. And Lord Yupa is an interesting character too. Again, cool design. I love that hat that he always wore. You know, where this kind of low down to his eyes, but we find out in the film that the guy's got skills, and that's a fun scene when he's fighting those swords. Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, and what do you think is the power of those yellow? The Ohm have these like strands, these hair. I don't know what you call them.
Yeah,
but that are like gold. And
almost, like a tentacle or something, right? Or some kind of a thing. Yeah.
And they are able to, they have healing properties that help to not only heal the toxic jungle, but also heal Nausicaa at a certain point and other people.
Yes. I thought that was just I interpreted it as just a wonderful component of nature, the healing power of nature, and Miyazaki and his team chose to express that through that part of the Ohm's, body structure, and because they weren't necessarily weapons, were they? They were mostly always seemed to use to heal and not to harm. Their bodies themselves would be the weapons, right? Because they could just plow through anything.
Yeah.
Plus, they move in groups of herds of 2 million.
Well, and there was definitely a feel that they only worked for somebody that was truly worthy,
right?
For it to work. It almost reminded me of like Rapunzel's hair in Tangled.
Yes, exactly. It's exactly like Rapunzel's hair. Yeah, And it kind of with the gold glow, right? When it was when they were working their magic. But it was a cool storytelling element, I thought, just about the healing power of nature.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved how that was expressed in these bugs, because you see the bugs again looking at that poster behind you. I mean, they're scary looking.
They're very scary. And there's times when like just there's times when like just tons of the bugs are just like dead, like huge, you know, and there's times when everybody there's a lot of loss in this movie.
Yeah, there is. And that's why I was saying war movie, you know. I mean, there's just
you're right.
There's a lot of bug loss. There's a lot of human loss. There's a lot of human loss in the film. It's sad.
Yeah, and I think what makes, because I cried like several times in the movie, and it was always because I just felt so emotionally connected to Nausicaa, and I felt like she was trying so hard, and it kind of reminded me of like when Jesus sees that the people are sleeping, you know, and he's like, could you not wait 1 hour with me? And that's sort of how I felt sometimes with Nausicaa, like, couldn't you do better? Like, couldn't you try harder? Couldn't you help me more? Why do I have to do it? Sort of,
no, that's a really good comparison, Rachel.
Yeah, she has to be the one to do it. I guess it's her burden.
Yeah,
that she really does.
Well, and yeah, because it's a really good point. Because finally, you know, I think the people get on board, like Asbel, you know, and when he helps her escape, you know, she's one of the many challenges that she has is the lady with the bionic arm. You know, they trap her on one of those cool airplanes, and she's basically in a prison cell, and she can't get out, and they figure out a way to get her out. But yeah, it seems like everybody's against her, so it's so nice to see. That was so nice to see people helping her, you know?
Yeah. Asbel ends up helping her get free from the ship. And, you know, and she's just trying to like warn her people because they're going to try to unleash all these bugs on the valley. She's trying to warn the valley. And you have this like scene where there's these tanks and the Tolmekians and the giant warrior. And then there's the bugs and so
and I you know, her plight made me emotional too. I one of the things that I also kept feeling was kind of this just sense of awe, like my jaw was dropping at all the stuff that was happening, like you say, with particularly that final third where it's just nonstop action, and that you know, when the bugs are fighting that giant monster, part of it too, I mean, the imagery is just so unusual.
Yeah.
Because it's just, I mean, it's these great artists at Studio Ghibli, you know, that have come up with this stuff that's so inventive and so fanciful and just awe-inspiring, didn't you think?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I couldn't believe what I was watching.
Well, she's able to get the Ohms, basically like their trust, pretty quickly, and then they stand off against this great warrior and against this huge basically herd, and it's this you know, they're completely outnumbered, but that's when finally, you know, after she sort of sacrifices herself and these Ohm for the valley, that's when they basically resurrect her at the end. And she becomes that person in blue that she had seen, and that was part of the prophecy, and coming out of the gold fields.
And the gold fields are all of those tentacle things or whatever, you know, we were talking about from the Ohms.
Yeah.
That have helped heal her, and then create this ethereal field of gold. I mean, it looks like almost like wheat waving in the wind, doesn't it? And that's just, again, so masterfully animated. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's emotional, and it feels true. It feels I don't know, like you feel devastated, you feel inspired, you feel everything all at once. And I couldn't even that's the thing that's weird about this movie is that if somebody were to say, is it a little convoluted? Yep, it is. It is, but it didn't really matter to me because I thought the emotion was there. Like if I'm having to write some kind of like paper on what happens in Nausicaa, Valley of the Wind, I'm going to struggle a little bit because and I was a little intimidated to come to this podcast. I'm like, how do I explain this? But while you're watching it, it totally works and you're totally immersed and you're just waiting for the next thing to happen. And because I think that character is so well done. It's so well written. And I really think, I mean, I was going through because I do love Miyazaki's, female characters, his lead protagonists. But it's hard to think of anyone that's more complex, more rich, more emotional, more meaningful than Nausicaa.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree. There's something about Nausicaa. She's got a history of sadness and pain. Yet, as you said, she's optimistic, but she's not annoyingly optimistic. You just feel this. She's got this sense of purpose about her that is just, as we've already said, but it's unwavering. And I'm with you. I just absolutely love that about her. And then when you find out, I mean, she's the one from the prophecy too. I mean, that is the coolest moment because she was in this pink thing, and when all the tentacles heal her, it changes her robe to blue, and I mean, I knew it was going to happen, but still, to see it on the big screen and Joe Hisaishi's sound, incredible soundtrack going, and these visuals. I mean, it was such a treat. It was such a treat. Oh,
it was amazing on the big screen. I was completely just like
blown away.
Wow. And it ends on this like hopeful note with them finding the plant in the underneath the toxic jungle, and with Nausicaa being the ruler, and you just know that everything's going to be okay. And
things going to be okay.
And I think I don't know, it meant something to me, especially like with such a tense, weird political climate that we have right now in our country. Like, I don't know, for some reason, I feel like I felt this movie more than I have in the past. Without getting too political, but I don't know, it was just like, it was something I felt like I needed to see this on the big screen.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think there's something about the timing of it, which was pretty remarkable, because again, it's so interesting because it speaks to human politics and then also humans treating of the environment, and that's also so political too.
I think too it never has hopeless people. Like it has these things that are really hard, and sometimes I can feel that way now, that like there's just these things that are really hard that we're dealing with, but there's, I don't know, there's just never there's never a hopeless moment. There's never in my opinion, and I don't know, it's just I feel like it's really easy nowadays to be like that is evil and that is good, and we have to like resist the evil. But this is just something about it is sort of more complicated and more sort of hopeful about it all.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That's one of the things. I mean, one of the bazillion things we love about Miyazaki. But it's a complex story. It's not just black and white,
right?
As we were saying, like even with the villains, we don't really understand the motive other than they were just like burning everything. But they weren't just like
they were still trying to do what's right in their view.
In their view, and really complex.
Compared to like the villain in Castle in the Sky, which worked for that story, that kind of story, but he's very like, thing.
He really is. He was such a more traditional style villain. Yeah, so cool, right?
Yeah. This is just people that are grasping at straws and trying to get through. And Nausicaa's the one who is able to bond with everyone, and she's able to see the good in everything. And I think that's just what makes you love her. And it's just great. And I found it very emotional, and I found it very moving and awe-inspiring. And I felt jealous. I felt like jealous of music. Like, how did you do this? Like, that's how I was sort of I wish I could ask him, like, how did you think of all this? How did you do it? Like, that's so amazing to me.
I totally agree, Rachel. I left the same thing with just even more respect for Miyazaki and and his team. Yeah, how in the world do they come up with these incredible stories and tell them so well?
And I didn't see the dubbed. I saw the subbed, but the dubbed isn't half bad. It's got Alison Lohman, Patrick Stewart, Shia LaBeouf, Uma Thurman, Chris Sarandon. It's a pretty good dub. So if you feel intimidated by the subtitles, this is a pretty good one to see
and see it. Because it's so great. Did you feel? I know we talked earlier about how this anti-war statement or pro-environment statement of it too. How do you think Miyazaki does it as well without, again, hitting you over the head, as I like to say, with the message? I was so impressed by that.
I know, me too. It's hard to describe, I guess, but I think because it gets down to core emotions, as opposed to bad guys and good guys, which a lot of anti-war or pro-war kind of does. It's like you either got in a propaganda kind of film, it's like, we're the good guys, we're the nationalists, we're the whatever, and the anti-war is the opposite. Like there's the evil government or the evil army or whatever it might be. Whereas this, it's all about the essence of who these characters are and how fear is driving this conflict. Fear of the forest, fear of humans, fear of death, fear of and also like a certain degree of sort of hatred that they have, prejudice against the Om, prejudice against the other people, and how I mean, it's going to sound really, really cheesy, but like how like love and seeing, like, she's the only one that like I feel like even tries to bond with the Om and tries to sort of calm them and I don't know, like, so there's just something about this that makes you feel like it's hard to feel like preached to, and it's hard to feel frustrated or whatever by an anti-war message when it's so something that all of us can do. We can all sort of reach out and be more hopeful and try to understand people better, and it's just so beautiful that you kind of want to go on the journey with the characters. I don't know, what do you think?
No, I'm with you. I think, again, it's just so interesting that, most of the people in the movie, Nausicaa, is the exception, and other people get on board with her, but feel like the Om are the enemy, right? And they're trying to take out the Om, all the giant bugs, but they're not. They're not the enemy. In fact, they're the ones that kind of heal it and make things better. And
because there's hope. This is it's all about sort of building these bridges between all these different people,
right?
And I think that it also gives you enough like glimpses of that hope, where you have these moments of peace where she's surrounded by the yellow bands, or moments when she's in the toxic free zone. You just have these little moments where it's like, okay, we can do that.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like the misunderstanding is the villain, like people,
that's a good way to put it.
People just not understanding or applying judgment on something that they just don't fully understand. And Nausicaa's the one who who understands them and is committed to, helping people understand.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's the most special about this movie is I really feel like I could watch it 100 times and get new things out of it every time.
I know. I feel the same way. I felt this way after every one of these Studio Ghibli films, Rachel. I just wanted to sit there and have them play it again, But I thought the same thing. It's like I'd pick up new things every time. It's so complex. It's so there's so much thought and craft put into these films. You probably could never absorb it all, even after a whole bunch of viewings.
Yeah. So I don't know. The only thing I would say is like this probably isn't one for little kids. Like if you have small children, and it might be kind of overwhelming for people.
Yeah.
If you're not sort of comfortable with anime a little bit, this is not the one that I would pick as my first go-to.
This is not your welcome to anime movie. There were some people on my row at the theater. They had maybe a 4-year-old child that was there with them, and she was good. I mean, she wasn't crying or acting up or anything. But I just wondered if the film maybe she had already been exposed to it at home. She had seen it, but it seemed like it would be a little overwhelming.
I think that Ponyo or no Totoro are the ones.
Those are the ones.
Yeah.
To kind of get your feet wet with Studio Ghibli and that are so family friendly.
Yeah. By the way, I reviewed Ponyo this weekend for family movie night. So if people if you want to check that out. So I mean, if you were to give this a score from 1 to 10, what do you think? Where would you have it?
Oh, my stars. At least a 9.5, if not higher.
Yeah.
And maybe just I almost want to give it a perfect 10, Rachel, because I think it's such a masterpiece. I still can't quite decide if the convoluted nature of it is, if that's just me, maybe with, again, I was just reading the subtitles, and cultural differences or whatever. But it's still it's a masterpiece. I'd really rank it high. How about you?
Yeah, and that word is used very so much these days that it almost I feel like it's almost lost its meaning.
I know.
And masterpiece. It's like
agreed.
Calm down.
I should find a better word.
No. I'm saying in this case, it's actually valid. Yeah. So I'm saying that this is not one of those cases where you're just like throwing it around for nothing. This is like actually true. This really is a masterpiece. It is so rich. It is so deep. It has so many layers. It's so well executed. It's not too long. It's not, in my opinion, not boring. It keeps going and it keeps you engaged, and it has such great characters. So I'm with you. I think giving this one the 10, the perfect 10. I really just love it. I was so
such a good film.
And I think I just needed it because it's so easy to feel just sort of despairing these days. I stopped kind of paying attention to the news and to politics and stuff like that because it's just so depressing. And every day there's something new to be outraged by and something horrible. New to, and it's like everybody's sort of pitted against each other. And I think I just needed to see this and have that sort of hope that it felt. I just needed to feel that for a couple hours, if that makes sense.
No, it totally makes sense. And I think too, Nausicaa is a good reminder of nobility, nobility. I mean, because ultimately Nausicaa is human.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about that too, is like she is the best. She demonstrates the very best of human behavior, where others, the people around her, don't, but she does, and she does it consistently. And
that's a good way to describe it. It makes really you feel inspiring. It makes you feel like in the worst of times, there's still like this humanity, and then maybe that's why it meant something more to me this time than when I'd seen it in the past. And I mean, I don't know how I would rank it. We'll have to see after we finish all of these. but it's just really special. So it was a lot of fun. And next month we have such a treat with Spirited Away. Oh my gosh.
I love that movie. That's one of the first Studio Ghibli films I saw on the big screen.
Yeah, me too.
It might have been Princess Mononoke. I forget. It's been a while. But wow. It's the coolest film.
One of my favorite animated films. It's so amazing. And I think what's so great about Spirited Away is literally every scene is unpredictable. It is the most original film I think I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. It's just like you have no idea what's going to come next. And so it's a real delight to watch.
Yes, agreed. I can't wait.
So that'll be fun. So... All right. Well, thanks for talking.
Morning when the Studio Ghibli Fest is ending, Rachel. I can't even go there. This has been so great. I have loved these movies so much.
I know. I was thinking, can we contact G Kids and have them just keep it going?
Can you do this every month from here to eternity, please?
Yeah, because really there isn't I've never seen a Studio Ghibli film that I haven't liked. I mean, the worst one is probably the Tales of Earthsea, but I feel like I defend that movie because I don't think it's horrible. It has some problems, but other than that, and that's not a Miyazaki movie. Other than that, I think they're all really, really good, and I would love to see Tales of Princess Kaguya on the big screen again because that is just great. I would love to see a Takahata film on the big screen.
Yeah, I hope they do that.
I hope they do too.
I hope they do that.
Yeah, because I did see Only Yesterday, and I did see I saw Kaguya and Marnie when Marnie was there, and they're really fun. So that'll be fun to at least see Spirited Away. That will be very special next month.
Yes, it will indeed.
So, where can people reach you?
Well, thanks, Rachel. I'm on Twitter, so at Stanford Clark. Also, you can follow my movie blog, which is stanfordclark.com.
Yeah, great. Well, and I am on Twitter at Smiling LDS Girl, and I am now on iTunes, Rachel's Review, so you want to make sure to check that out. Yeah.
So cool. Congratulations.
Thanks. And we have some fun things coming up with the Hallmarkies podcast I've been working on with my friend, and some other fun projects coming up. I'm going to be seeing the Frozen musical this weekend.
Very cool.
You will definitely be seeing some updates on that. And
excited for your report, Rachel. I hope it's good.
I'm really, really, really thrilled. So thanks again. And we will talk again next month.
Thank you. Bye.